Hello. Today I'm going to speak to you about the anamnesis at Mass. It's most commonly referred to as the consecration. Anamnesis, again, is a word that means remembering, remembrance, but with the sense of remembering, making ourselves members once again in something that took place 2,000 years ago and still takes place today on every altar throughout the world, daily, all over the place. So anamnesis. I'm using, again, Eucharistic Prayer 3. And the first thing that I would point out, and this is crucial, is at this point in the Mass, the priest is speaking to the Father. The priest is not speaking to the congregation gathered. The priest's words are directed to the Father. You can hear that in the part where it says, giving you thanks. It's speaking, so here's what it says. For on the night he was betrayed, he being Jesus, he himself took bread and giving you thanks. So the you is directed to the Father, which means everything else that the priest is saying in the consecration is directed to the Father, not to the people. Even though I go on to say, he said the blessing, broke the bread, and gave it to his disciples, saying, so again, I'm saying, Father, this is what Jesus did, and he was saying this. And then it says, take this, all of you, and eat of it, for this is my body, which will be given up for you. Those are the words that Jesus said when he changed the bread and wine into his body and blood. And I continue on. In a similar way, when supper was ended, he took the chalice, and giving you thanks, he said the blessing, and gave the chalice to his disciples, saying, take this, all of you, and drink from it, for this is the chalice of my blood, the blood of the new and eternal covenant, which will be poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. Do this in memory of me. Again, it's the words that Jesus spoke when he changed bread and wine into his body and blood, and it's the words that we speak when we change bread and wine into body and blood. A couple of notes on the directions that are given to the priest on what to do and when. So first off, when it says he himself took bread, it says the priest takes the bread and holding it slightly raised above the altar. And then when I actually speak the words that Jesus spoke, both with the bread and the wine, it says he bows slightly. And the understanding of a bow in the Mass is often dependent on the situation, but it is often, very often, recalling the action of the Holy Spirit, and here that is the case. When the priest bows slightly, it is recalling the coming down of the Holy Spirit. And this is a calling down of the Holy Spirit. We did that in the epiclesis. We'll do that in the epiclesis of communion. But this is the consecration, the anamnesis, includes that calling down of the Holy Spirit into the bread and wine. After I say, for this is my body, which will be given up for you, the direction says, he shows the consecrated host to the people, places it again on the paten, and genuflects in adoration. So first off, he shows the consecrated host to the people. That's why if you see me celebrate Mass, especially on the weekends, I will, take the host and go all the way around to all the people so that they can look at what is now Jesus. Part of what that means is that the congregation, if I'm showing the host to the congregation, what should the congregation be doing? Probably looking at the host. Otherwise, why am I showing it to them? A lot of people at this point are like, okay, I'm going to bow my head in adoration. It makes sense. But if my directive is to show the host to the people, the directive for the people should be look at Jesus, see Jesus. And then it says, the priest genuflects in adoration, and I think that's an excellent time for the entire church to bow their heads in adoration. It makes a lot of sense that we look at Jesus first, and then we adore him. And then it goes on with the wine, same thing. He takes the chalice, holding it slightly raised above the altar, continues. Giving you thanks, he said the blessing, gave the chalice to his disciples, saying, take this, all of you, and drink from it, for this is the chalice of my blood, the blood of the new and eternal covenant. These are the words of Jesus. They're found in 3 of the Gospels and in one of St. Paul's letters. And this idea of it being a new covenant, it's a new promise, a new relationship that we have with Jesus. This relationship that involves taking him into ourselves and being transformed by his presence inside us, which will be poured out for you and for many. Again, Jesus said this at the Last Supper, predicting that he was going to pour out his blood on the cross for us for the forgiveness of sins. And then again, do this in memory of me. The only reason that we are able to celebrate the Eucharist at all is because Jesus told us to do it. He gave us that authority. And so he said to do it, and so we do it. And then again, the directions, he shows the chalice to the people, places it on the corporal, and genuflects in adoration. Somebody actually recently just asked me this question: why do you take the bread and show it all the way around, and the chalice and just hold it there? And my answer is, the chalice is a very three-dimensional object, which I can show to the people without going all the way around. The host is a very two-dimensional object, which, it's kind of helpful to see it full on coming around. It would also make sense to take the chalice and go all the way around, but it feels a little weird to me. I don't know why. That's just something personal. But that's the reason that I do it. And there you go. That is the anamnesis, also known as the consecration at Mass. Some people, I have one more thing to say. A lot of people think that this is the heart of the Mass and the most important part of the Mass. And there's good arguments to be made for that. I would actually disagree. I think that the doxology, which comes up at the end of the Eucharistic prayer, is the most important part of the Mass, which is why you'll always hear me sing it if you come to any of my Masses. And I will make my argument for that when I record that video. For now, have a wonderful day, and God bless you all.